Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 7th April 2021. Before going into the lecture or starting this lecture, let me tell you that those who are watching this video for first or second time, let me tell you that you need to continue watching these videos for at least 1 or 2 weeks to understand and gain input from these lectures. Okay, so here the Hindu analysis, following this on the continuous basis, reading the Hindu newspaper, especially the editorial page, is very important, and then only you will understand what we are discussing here. Okay, so try to have follow up for at least 1 or 2 weeks, and then you can decide on whether to follow these lectures or not. This is very important. Okay, now let us see which are the important articles in today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, these are the articles for mains related and for prelims related articles. Let us first take overview of these articles. First article, reworking net zero for climate justice, on page number 6 editorial page. The context of the article here is that the inbuilt inequity that is there in Paris Agreement, and this will not be ensuring the climate justice that we want to have, especially towards developing and underdeveloped countries. So what are these issues involved in the climate negotiations and Paris Agreement? Along with that, it is also giving some way forward. So GS3 paper environment section, we can take input here. Next, Russia calls for inclusive solution to Afghan crisis. Here, Russian foreign minister is visiting India, and the bilateral visit between the Russian foreign minister and Indian external affairs minister, in that meeting, he has called for inclusive solution to Afghan crisis. Okay, so as a follow-up to Afghan peace process that recently we are discussing this issue, you need to know the viewpoint of Russia here. Okay, so international relations GS2 paper. Now specifically prelims related developments, vigilance officers to be transferred every 3 years. Now the Central Vigilance Commission has revised the guidelines regarding the transfers and postings of vigilance officer, and now it is saying that they will be transferred when there is, or the officers will be transferred every 3 years. Okay, so yes, why they have taken this step, and from prelims perspective, the basics about this CVC statutory body. Okay, next, Justice Ramanna will be next CJI, Chief Justice of India. Now, our President has appointed the new Chief Justice of India, 48th CJI. So, basics about appointment of Chief Justice of India from polity perspective, we need to know about this. Next, civility is the key to democracy. So our Vice President Venkaiah Naidu was addressing one of the meeting, and that was celebrating the Dandi March, end of Dandi March celebration here, and also the 75th anniversary of Independence Day that we are going to celebrate in 2022. So year-long celebrations that are going to be happening. So it has mention of Dandi March, and therefore here we have to take input from modern history part. What was Dandi March, its significance. And lastly, India's growth outlook of 12.5% faces severe risk. So here in International Monetary Fund IMF report, it is talking about that India's growth outlook of 12.5% faces severe risk because of the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic that India is facing at present. Okay, so from prelims related and mains related developments, let us go into details of all these articles. First article on page number 6, reworking net zero for climate justice. Here we are going to understand the issues involved in the climate negotiations at international level, and even Paris Agreement that we have at present as international agreement or document for climate change action plan. Now what are these issues? First and foremost, we have to understand the inbuilt inequity that is there in this Paris climate change agreement and climate negotiations that are going on in last 1 decade. Okay, so what are these inbuilt inequities? For example, if we talk about developing countries like India, so the share of India in greenhouse gas emissions we can say that India is fourth largest greenhouse gas emitter. However, per capita emissions are very low as compared to the first three. If we are talking about the US, China, and third one is European Union as one block as the largest emitter. Okay, so yes, the overall emissions of India are only 3% of overall emissions of the world. When we compare this to US, it is 26%, China 13%. So as compared to these two, India is having only 3% of overall emissions as compared to these three countries. Okay, so this is how we have to understand the inequity that is there already. At the same time, the per capita emissions are very low as compared to US and European Union. Along with that, one of the report of United Nations suggests that 1% rich people or population of the world emits more than 50% of these greenhouse gases as compared to the bottom 50% population of the world. When we talk about the rich and poor divide also here. Okay, so this is the inbuilt inequity there, and this is not incorporated in these negotiations, and that's why the climate justice is not achieved along with these principles. Next we have to understand is that the present framework, especially this Paris Climate Agreement, considers only outcome, that is it focuses more on the result and not the causing factor. The result, in a sense, the CO2 emissions that are calculated, while it is not taking into consideration the causing factor, that is the Western world in last 200 years, how they have polluted by using the polluting fuel, that is coal, and we can say that crude oil also to some extent. So this is not taken into consideration. And next thing we have to understand is that developing countries and underdeveloped countries, now they are let's say entering into the phase of development, or we can say that the industrialization and urbanization, and they require more energy security, energy resources, and now they are very much dependent on conventional resources like coal and crude oil. And if they are cut down at present, then what will happen is their population and development of their population, well-being of their population will be hampering. Okay, so if we take the example of India, surely India has its young population and late development phase. Because of that, India's development will be dependent on conventional fuel resources, and this factor we have to take into consideration, especially if we are talking about the infrastructure, buildings and industry. Now infrastructure in the urban areas especially, it is responsible for 2/3 of the emissions. Okay, along with that, we also need to understand the needs of young population, especially the middle class income group that we have in India, the largest one, and their demands in terms of infrastructure, housing sector, construction. Fine. So these are the issues that are not being considered when we talk about these Paris climate agreement or climate negotiations at international level. So what is the way forward that we need to consider here? We need to change all these principles on the basis of which these negotiations are going on. For example, first, India needs to highlight in the world that there are some inbuilt changes, or we can say that the unique national circumstances with respect to food, energy and transportation system that have to change, especially when we talk about the Western developed countries and developing countries like India and China. What are these? For example, if we take the example of food here, so the example of meat. So meat production in the world is responsible for almost 1/3 emission of greenhouse gases, and this is a very important factor. Why? Because India contributes to almost around only 4% or we can say not 4%, consumption is 4 kg per person per year. Now this is very minimal as compared to European Union, 68 kg per person. This is the situation in terms of food. We need to also consider the situation in US, where is 1/3 food is wasted. This is the situation in the Western world, and we need to take this particular factor into consideration when we talk about the climate justice. Okay, first thing. Second thing we have to understand is that whatever the sustainable development agenda that we have at the world level, that should be focusing or centered around those countries which are having per capita emissions below global average. Okay, so focus should be on these countries. Those Western countries, their per capita emissions are higher than the global average. What you can say, the focus should not be on those countries, rather the focus should be on those with per capita emissions below global average. Focus in a sense, the cooperation funding in terms of technology and the funding for climate adaptation and mitigation practices. The next aspect we have to understand, the criteria in deciding all these negotiations or principles should be the well-being within ecological limits. So this well-being is very important factor. So well-being of the population, especially in the developing world and underdeveloped world, the well-being of that population should be taken into consideration, rather than we can say each and every country having the responsibility to cut down the emissions. That should not be the criteria. And lastly, we can say that the technology transfer is very important, especially from developed countries to developing countries, underdeveloped countries. When we talk about the transport sector, electric vehicles, so technology related to electric vehicles, or if we talk about the hydrogen as fuel, these technologies are now well developed in Western countries like Germany, US, Japan. They should be sharing these technologies. At the same time, funding mechanism should be there to developing and underdeveloped countries. Okay, so that should be the way forward. You can mention when we talk about the climate justice. There can be essay on climate justice also, because this word is becoming very we can say emphasized, highlighted at the world level, especially even our Prime Minister is highlighting about the climate justice. So what kind of question we can expect here? To ensure the climate justice, there is urgent need to reworking principles of climate negotiations, discuss with reference to issues involved in Paris Agreement. Right. So we have to discuss these issues that earlier we talked about, and then you can give this way forward also. Okay. Moving on to next article, Russia calls for inclusive solution for Afghan crisis. So as a follow-up to Afghan peace process, we need to understand what is Russia's view. So recently Russian foreign minister is on the visit to India, and the bilateral meeting with India's external affairs minister. In that meeting, Russia called for we can say that inclusive solution. So the Taliban movement is part of Afghan society. The decision on settlement in Afghanistan should foresee the participation of all political, ethnic and religious groups in the country. Otherwise, the solution will not be stable. This is the view of Russia's foreign minister. At the same time, India's view. For India, what happens in Afghanistan impacts our society, security directly, and therefore the approach that for durable peace there would require harmonizing the interest of all, both within and around the country. So what we are talking at present now is double peace. Use this word in your answer, double peace. Peace in Afghanistan, peace in the surrounding region. Peace in Afghanistan, peace in surrounding region. This is the view that is put forward by our external affairs minister in nowadays in different international forums. Double peace, Afghanistan, peace in Afghanistan, peace in surrounding region of Asia. Okay. So you can take this as follow-up for Afghan peace process. Next, for prelims related developments here, vigilance officers to be transferred every 3 years. Now the guidelines have been revised by Central Vigilance Commission, modified the guidelines pertaining to the transfer and postings of officials in vigilance units of the government organizations, restricting their tenure to 3 years at one place. Now this is good development. Why this step has been taken? Because what happens is, whenever there is undue long term tenure at one place, these vigilance officers may develop the vested interest. There can be conflict of interest, there can be the chances of nexus and corruption, and because of that such step has been taken, because there are many such allegations unnecessary on those vigilance officer, and their integrity is at the question. So such steps are being taken. At the same time, it increases transparency and accountability, okay, and objectivity and uniformity in approach. Fine. So this is the step. You can use this in GS4 paper, ethics and governance part. The accountability and transparency part is also there. Conflict of interest is important topic in ethics paper, right? Then we have public administration optional students. They can also use this in GS paper, in paper 2 of public administration. Okay, next, the Central Vigilance Commission. So basics about this. So yes, you can read this from M. Lakshmikant also. Let us quickly go through the basics of this particular statutory body that we have. So initially this body was established as on the recommendation of Santanam Committee on Prevention of Corruption 1962-64, and then it was created in 1964 by an executive resolution of central government. So earlier it was executively created body, but later on it was given the statutory status by enactment of particular CVC law in 2003 by Parliament. Now what is the composition of this CVC? One Chief Vigilance Commission or Central Vigilance Commissioner, chairperson, and then not more than 2 vigilance commissioners. Okay, so 1 chairperson, 2 VCs, vigilance commissioners. They are appointed by the president on the recommendation of 3-member selection committee consisting of Prime Minister as its head, then Union Home Minister and the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. So 3-member committee. Now these vigilance commissioners and the Central Vigilance Commissioner, they hold the office for the tenure of 4 years or up to the age of 65 years, whichever is the earlier. Okay, so 4 years until they attain the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. Now after the tenure, they are not eligible for appointment in central or state government. Okay, so this is the situation. Ultimately they have to submit the report to the president annually on their performance. Okay, and this ultimately is tabled by the president on the floor of parliament or parliament houses. Yes, so you have to also consider the functions of CVC. You need to understand 2 important functions. One is that to inquire into allegations of corruptions under Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 of central government or central government officers and administration, not state government. Again I am repeating, to inquire into allegations of corruptions under Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 of the central government, or we can say central government officers. Second aspect you have to understand, to supervise and direct CBI or those establishment under Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946. So CBI is one such establishment. So Chief Bureau of Investigation, a Central Bureau of Investigation, not Chief, sorry. Okay, so Central Bureau of Investigation, whatever the cases regarding corruption being handled by CBI, so for that matter the CVC is the supervising body. Okay, so these are 2 important functions of CVC. There are other such functions like appointment of director of CBI, the view of vigilance commissioner is also important. He is the part of selection committee. Okay, so yes, these are the functions of CBC. It is India's main agency for preventing corruption in central government. Next, Justice Ramanna will be the next Chief Justice of India. Now our President has appointed the next Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramanna, 48th Chief Justice of India, to be effect from 24th April 2021. So these powers are conferred under Article 124 of Indian Constitution. Some of the factual information about N.V. Ramanna, again that is not important for our UPSC examination. UPSC will not ask such trivial, let's say factual statements here. But what is important for us is the procedure that is there for appointment of Chief Justice of India in India. Yes, the Article 124 Clause 1 talks about that Indian Constitution, there shall be a Supreme Court of India consisting of Chief Justice of India. This is only the provision, and there is no let's say other information about, let's say, the criteria, eligibility criteria or something like that for Chief Justice of India. Okay, now this has been evolved from time to time. Since independence, the senior most judge was being let's say recommended to the government or the president for the appointment of Chief Justice of India. However, there are many such instances, 2 to 3 instances, wherein this convention was not followed. In 1973, Indira Gandhi government, in 1977 Janata government, they appointed the other such Supreme Court judges and not the senior most judges as Chief Justice of India. Now that's why in second judge's case in 1993, it was decided that only senior most Supreme Court judge was to be appointed as Chief Justice of India. Now this is followed on the continuous basis. Okay. So what is the procedure that is adopted here? The procedure is that Law Ministry of Central Government seek the recommendation of next Chief Justice of India from the incumbent, we can say, Chief Justice of India, and the existing CJI sends recommendation to the Law Ministry, the senior most judge, name of the senior most judge in Supreme Court, and later on the Law Minister forwards this to Prime Minister, who then advises President to appoint the next CJI. This is the situation here. Now what is the basic difference between the appointment of the Chief Justice of India, that recommendation, and appointment of other such judges in Supreme Court? The basic difference is that the President is not having power for resending that particular recommendation when there is case of appointment of CJI. However, the President can resend or that for reconsideration of those recommendations back to Supreme Court when we talk about Supreme Court judges, appointment of Supreme Court judges. However, after such reconsideration, if the Collegium of Supreme Court headed by CJI resent same names for appointment of Supreme Court judges, then the President has to listen to it and appoint those members or judges to Supreme Court. Okay, this is the difference that we have in the appointment of CJI and other such Supreme Court judges. Now next, civility is the key to democracy, says Venkaiah Naidu, Vice President of India. So he was actually addressing the closing ceremony of 25-day ceremonial Dandi March organized by Culture Ministry to kick off 75 weeks of celebrations ahead of 75th Independence Day. Okay, so here you can also take input for ethics paper. You can use this caption: Gandhiji's principle of non-violence was not limited to physical violence alone, rather it encapsulated non-violence in words and thoughts too. So you can use this, right? What the kind of words that are being used, especially on the social media platforms, to derogate the image, or we can say the bullying, cyber bullying is being done, right? So, or we can say the derogatory words are being used to harass the women in the society on those social media platforms. This particular let's say situation that we have, you can use the Gandhiji's principle of non-violence not only in physical form but in words and thoughts also. Right. Now the Dandi March, Salt Satyagraha, March, the words are used in a different manner. This was the important part of civil disobedient movement of 1930 to 32 in two phases that was there. So the 24-day Salt March lasted from 12th March 1930 to 6th April 1930. The direct action campaign of the tax resistance and non-violent protest against British salt monopoly. Okay, so it spanned for 390 km from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. Okay, this is the basic information, and on this particular day of 6th April, Gandhiji along with 78 trusted followers, they broke the salt law and broke the salt monopoly also of the British government. So this was part of CDM, Civil Disobedient Movement, 1930. Okay. Next, India's growth outlook of 12.5% faces severe risk. This is the view of the new report, World Economic Outlook, Managing the Divergent Recoveries of IMF, International Monetary Fund. Now, why this particular view is taken? Because of ongoing second wave of COVID-19 in India. This challenges the economic recovery of Indian economy at present. This is the view taken by IMF. So you can quote, give the reference of IMF when we talk about the COVID-19 and its impact on economy, the second wave that we are facing at present in India, right? So from economy perspective, you can have the follow up here. Okay. Yes, so these were important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. If you have understood and you have liked this video, then you can put the like button there. You can subscribe to Lukman IAS channel and share this video link to your friends so that they can also get input here. Fine. For further information on editorial discussion classes or ED classes, wherein in-depth analysis of mains related issues and articles is done by Ansari sir and team, you can contact Lukman IAS. Thank you.